you're talking to sellers, there's three things that happen in a call that causes pushback. You see, in our current market, guys, sellers are resistant to wholesalers and investors calling them because they are getting bombarded with calls. They're learning more about our industry. And so there's multiple resistances. And contrary to common knowledge, just going for no, just telling them it's okay to not do business with me, just telling them, it's probably not for you, is not the best way to get a potentially motivated seller to sell you their property. You might be turning away business. The phrase, we're going to close every closable deal, if you're turning them away, that might have been a closable deal. So in this video, guys, I'm going to go over the three types of resistances that you run into and a hack at the end of the exact phrase you can use if you don't know all the techniques to navigate it, on how you can get the conversation back on track and get people to want to sell you their house. Hey guys, my name is Ronald Walker, your host here at Forge to Win. If you like this content, hit the subscribe button for me. Hit that little notification bell if you want to get more content from me. And today, I want to talk to you about what it looks like when you're talking to sellers. You see, it's funny because the sales process, we have been told, has been about solving sellers' problems, that we ask questions, we uncover a need, we solve their problems, and then we close, which is fantastic. I love that. Questions are good, finding problems to solve are good, and closing is all good. But in real life, when you get into the ring, when you jump on the phone and you talk to sellers, most of the time we're trying to uncover that problem, but we run into something else. We run into resistance, right? We run into like this pushback that sellers give, and it's not always the same. And in my experience, guys, it's come into three categories. You know, I've done quite a bit of role playing in my life, okay? Where you jump on the phone, what happens when you role play, right? I was doing a podcast the other day. I was in the guy's office, and then he just jumped into role playing right when I was doing the podcast. And when he was doing that, he was just asking questions. He's like, yeah, I want to sell. And the role play was way easier than a legitimate conversation normally does. He was leading questions, just making it really easy for me to answer the question. What does that do? That's not reality. Well, what's the flip side of role playing? You jump in a role play and all of a sudden they're hammering all these negatives. And you can usually tell a person's attitude towards sales by how you role play. Either they're really negative or really harsh and it's way too hard, or it's way too easy, right? It's one of the two. It's never really an exact replica of a situation. Why? Because a lot of us don't understand what the types of resistance we do. So what are they? And I'm gonna, guys, if you stay to the end, I'm gonna show you one of the number one ways to overcome it. There's multiple techniques, but I want to just give you the hack to be able to just sidestep, not have to be a sales ninja, the hack that you can do to get over these resistances and have a real conversation with your seller and close more deals. So stay to the end because I'm going to drop that. But what are the three things when you run into resistance, okay? Number one is a seller simply is skeptical. They're skeptical of you. They might have a problem. They might need to sell their house cash. They raised their hand and said, yeah, I'm interested in selling, but they're skeptical. Hey, this is not a fire sale. I'm not super motivated. I don't really need to do, right? These are all skeptical. They're putting the roadblocks on because they don't want to be taken advantage of. They're getting a bunch of calls. And this skepticism really comes in and they're asking, are you for real? Number two is they're indifferent. I don't necessarily have to. We've owned the property for about 25 years. We like it, this and that. You know, I just closed on a property up in Holton, Michigan, and it was actually on 5 acres, and it backed up to 40 acres of woodlands of state land. It was actually a fantastic property up there. But when I called them, from my cold caller called them, set them up in the lead, and I called them, and I spoke to the seller, and the seller was very much indifferent. She's like, the property's been in the family for a number of years. We inherited it about 10 years ago. And, we would be open to sell it, but we're just not really sure. It's like, well, do you want a cash offer? Like, well, we don't really know. And, we might just keep it. And it was a lot of indifference, right? There wasn't much acceptance of, yeah, I want to sell. This is what we're looking at. And so I had to dig a little bit deeper. I had to really figure out, what did they want? What did they put into it? Why would they sell? And I had to overcome this indifference with a couple key things, and we're going to get to the hack to the tactic at the beginning, but it had to be a couple key things to really understand this attitude. You see, when we start, before I get into the next one, which I'm going to get here in a second, which is the third attitude, when we start these conversations, a lot of us hear the phrase of, hey, ask open-ended questions, right? Ask Socratic questions. And then, dive into the things that kill the deals, right? The deal killers, the concerns that the person has, the red flags, the yellow flags, whatever that is. But a lot of times it's the attitudes that people have that we have to address. So when we ask questions and we ask open-ended questions, what happens when they shut down, when they're skeptical, when they don't want to answer the question? Well, when you ask those open-ended questions, you're either going to find out a need, you're going to find out that, yeah, they want to move forward, you're going to find out a problem that you can solve and you're going to dive into it, or you're going to find an attitude, a certain type of disposition they have towards you. And a lot of times they're these negative things. You see, in the real world, apart from those role plays, in the real world, people are funny, right? They want to do something, but they're afraid of being taken advantage of. They talked to a guy 3 days ago, and that guy seemed fishy to them, and that guy gave him a low ball and didn't even talk to him that long. They might have talked to somebody else, and they were promised the moon, and then that person lied to them, and so they're concerned. In the real world, we have to overcome people's attitudes towards us. And sometimes just going for no, just telling them, it's okay, we're not going to do the business. No, I'm probably not the right guy. They're going to say, okay, well, he's probably not the right guy. Instead, what we want to do is we want to lean back, not try to get it close so quickly, and handle the attitude in front of us. You see, I wish people automatically had great attitudes towards us. But the truth is, the master salesman knows how to address all those concerns, knows how to walk through that, knows how to uncover the potential needs that they have, and then be able to work through to a deal. Some people don't want to share the attitude. And this is what happens most of all. Have you ever gotten to the end of a call and they're just like, I need to talk to my wife, right? Or I need to speak to my husband. Let me ask some few people some questions and see what they have. That stalling that's happening is a smokescreen, okay? What they're trying to do is they're trying to make you feel comfortable, give a reason, stall a little bit so they can smokescreen the real attitude and concern. Sometimes this can be, there's a decision maker you haven't talked to. Sometimes there's another competitor on the table. Sometimes there's other options they're considering. Sometimes they just don't like the solution you provide. Sometimes that's it. But sometimes none of those are a problem. And they just feel weird. They don't know if you can really help them. They don't know if what you say is really possible. They're skeptical. They don't believe that you are the one that can help them. And so the third thing that you need to overcome is hostility. Someone is hostile towards you. They're just aggressive. I'm not going to be lowballed. You guys are just trying to steal people. You know what? You guys can't really help me anyway. And you need to be able to handle that hostility. So how do you do that? How do you handle the hostility? It's not just jumping in and addressing the red flags. It's actually addressing the attitude and being able to address that attitude when it comes up, usually after an open-ended question, usually after, well, why are you thinking about selling? And then they give you a really weird answer that you were not expecting. And it's an answer of resistance. And so what you want to do is you want to focus on the attitude and you want to address it. It's our job as the salesman, as the acquisition coordinator for your company, as the one who's buying deals, to be able to address the attitude. And here's the hack. Here is how you can address it. There's multiple techniques that you could learn as far as addressing these attitudes, and there's different ways to do both of them. But here's how you can do all of them at once, okay? You can step back and say, Mr. Seller, I've been doing this a long time, okay? And usually when I run into that, it's because of one of three things. It's usually because you've had a situation in the past that went wrong, and so you just don't believe me, right? You're kind of hostile to the situation, and you just don't believe me, okay? Number two is you don't really see the value and you're not quite sure how I might be able to help you. And number three, you know what? You might just be skeptical. You might think that I'm just going to lowball you, that I'm just trying to steal the property and all of that stuff. So if we could address that and solve those things, let me ask you, do you really want to sell the property? And then if they say yes, then you say, okay, which one of those three things is it? Are you just skeptical? And then make an assumption on which attitude you think it is. And once you label it, they'll either correct you or they say, yeah, here's what I'm thinking. They'll vomit. And then you'll ask a Socratic question. So let me ask you, I may not be the right person for you, but what are you really hoping for? How would this work? Why would you sell to me? And if you use any of those phrases, any of those key things, you will open up the conversation and you will do what I like to call is neutralizing their attitude towards you. Once you can neutralize that attitude that they come into the conversation with, you're now into the actual sales process. And people will say, once you get to know, that's when the sales process starts. What they mean is, once you neutralize their negative attitude towards you, then you can have a real conversation to see if you can help them sell their property to you and truly be solutions oriented. But to be solutions oriented in the real estate industry, in today's market, especially as the market is turning, your ability to handle attitudes, your ability to handle skepticism, indifference, hostility towards you will be the difference between making hundreds of thousands of dollars and not getting any deals. So guys, if you found this valuable, hit that subscribe button for me, hit the notification bell. And if you want to learn more, if you want to learn how to systemize your marketing, if you want to learn how to have these conversations and become better at converting deals, then click the link below and go check out the Acquisition University, where I'm taking a small group of individuals and we are walking them through how to create consistent lead flow into their business and then how to convert those leads so you can feel confident, whether it's in a down market or a top market, to be able to have a consistent flow of properties coming into your life in order to make $10, $20, $30,000 a month. Go click the link below, check it out. It's for you. And until next time, guys, peace.